Education. The education system in Estonia has been valued for generations. The history of formal education in Estonia dates back to the 13th and 14th centuries, when the first monastic and cathedral schools were founded. The country has one of the highest quality education systems in the world, with students showing the best results. According to the 2018 PISA International Education Ranking, Estonian students ranked first in Europe. The system has 4 levels, which are preschool, early childhood education including kindergartens, basic, secondary, and higher education. In this video, we will be talking about basic and secondary education. Difference between school types. Estonia has both public, municipal, and private schools. Public schools in Estonia are free, and for the private institutions, there is tuition fee. There are schools where the main language of instruction is Estonian, as well as some schools with Russian and English as the main language of instruction. There are 506 schools in Estonia in total, among which there are basic schools and secondary ones. Estonian education system. In Estonia, every child must start basic school at the age of 7. There are Estonian and Russian schools. The difference is the language of instruction. In Russian schools, children study some subjects in Russian and some in Estonian. The number of Estonian-taught subjects increases with every grade. In basic school, children study for 9 years, and after finishing it, they can either A. go to a secondary school, after which they can enter university, or B. get vocational education. In secondary school or high school, children study for 3 years, grade 10 to 12. Enrollment is based on their results from basic school. Every school also has its own additional admission rules, which you can find out about directly from the webpage of the school. For instance, schools may carry out tests to fill available places. School structure and education process. The school year begins on the 1st of September and usually ends at the beginning of June. There are school holidays in autumn, 1 week, around Christmas, usually 2 weeks, and in the spring, 1 week. In Estonian schools, students get marks from 1 to 5, where 5 is very good, 4 is good, 3 is satisfactory, 2 is poor, and 1 is weak. In the first grade, there are no marks. Parents can track the progress of their child from the feedback provided by the teacher. Estonian schools use online web platforms, where they publish all the information about grades, home tasks, attendance, important messages for parents and students. Usually the web platform used is either eCool or Studium. How to secure a school place for your child. Currently, having a D visa can create complications when you start the process of looking for a school for your child. There has been an ongoing debate about parents with D visas and admission to schools or kindergartens. The question is whether a school must take a child who does not have a residence permit, but only a D visa. For now, there is no decision. Mostly, schools will accept a child only if he or she has a residence permit. Despite this, if you are in Estonia with a D visa, we highly encourage you to try public schools first. The decision largely depends on the administration of the school and availability of vacant places. From the experiences of people on D visas, we know that writing an inquiry to the Ministry of Education can be helpful too. The Ministry of Education deals with every request on an individual basis and tries to find the most convenient solution for the family. However, be prepared that you may be limited to private schools. Looking for a school. How would you get your child enrolled in a school? It might look challenging, but we will provide you with the key steps. We will be considering public schools only. Every child of school age in Estonia has a right to have a school place in a nearby public school, usually the one closest to where the child lives, However, unfortunately, the D visa might be an obstacle for admission. To ensure that the school will have a place for your child, we advise you to contact your city government. Your choice of school will be considered, but it depends on the availability of places. It also might help to read some background information about schools on the Ministry of Education website. Get acquainted with a school of your interest by visiting its website, or look for feedback about a particular school on more informal channels, such as social media groups. For instance, on Facebook, there are many communities in English and Russian that connect expat parents in Estonia, expats in Estonia, expats in Tallinn, Mamachki и их жизнь, Mama Tartu, etc. If you have trouble in finding a school, you can contact the Ministry of Education and Research. As Estonia is relatively small, the governmental services work quite fast here, and there is not a lot of necessary paperwork. The ministry would gladly help you with the questions you have, and as a rule, will offer the solution or clear steps to take quickly. Application process. The next big step is the application process. We encourage you to call the school, or even better, to visit the school yourself. However, sending an email with an inquiry can also be an option. If you are worried about the language barrier in communication with schools, then we can assure you that it is highly likely that the administration can speak either Russian or English. Some schools even invite an interpreter during the first meetings. Don't worry about the child either. Schools have experience with children language immersion and should provide children with extra Estonian language classes. Usually, a child who goes to the first grade is accepted without any tests. However, some schools may have interviews or practical tasks to assess the child's knowledge. Also, many schools have so-called Open Doors Day. In Estonian, it is called Avatud uste päev. We recommend that you attend them to get the feeling of a school and ask questions. The more you know in advance, the easier it will be later. As for the documents, schools usually ask for your and your child's identity documents. Some schools may ask you for the reports from previous schools, health certificates, and vaccination information. Our advice is to ask the school all the questions that interest you. What the curriculum is, the schedule of lessons, what items the child might need, learning Estonian language, and so on. What to take care afterwards. Final preparations. Once the school place is secured, it's time to make some final preparations. Ensure that your child has everything needed for the first school day. Ask the teacher if anything special is needed. Try to mentally prepare your child for the first day at a new school. Ask the school how the integration of the child will be organized. Don't worry about education in Estonian if your child is in an Estonian-speaking school. Usually, schools provide extra Estonian language lessons to the child. Just ask about them. School services. School meals for students in basic education are free. Many schools have so-called long day groups. In Estonian, they are called pika päevaruum, where the child can stay after lessons to have free time activities and get help with homework. Choosing long day groups for your child may involve a small payment if your child has problems at school. If your child has problems with adapting to the new school, it's important to help. The first step could be contacting the class teacher, asking if they also see problems with the child. You can also contact a psychologist, special education teacher, or other support teachers your child's school might have, and discuss your worries with them. If you have tried to speak with the school and your worries continue, you can, as a next step, turn to special counseling centers called Rajaleidja centers. Find out more about education in Estonia by visiting the website of the Ministry of Education. Don't forget to watch a video about Estonian kindergartens.